Alright guys, so we're going to work on number 53 next. What we want to do is, to solve these out, you need to actually just look for your solving for y, okay? So right now it's solved for x, it just needs to be solved for y. Subtract 2 from both sides, you get negative 8y squared equals x minus 2. Now we need to divide through by negative 8. The common mistake here is just to divide one thing by 8. Remember, negative 8 has to go through every single term that you have. And this means that negative 8 divided by negative 8 gives you just y squared. And then you have this 1x here divided by negative 8. So that's negative 1/8x. And then 2 over 8 is actually 1 over 4 when you simplify. So here's my expression so far. It says y squared equals negative 1/8x plus a fourth. But we don't care about y squared. We care about y. So we need to take the square root of that. So the square root of y squared equals the square root of negative 1/8x plus a fourth. And here is where we split out into our two answers. Okay? You're going to have y equals twice. Y equals the positive and the negative, right? Plus and minus, negative 1/8x plus 1/4 and negative 1/8x plus 1/4. You write the exact same thing in here. One is positive, one is negative, and that's just so that we can graph it, and it will be symmetrical on its side when we graph it. Okay. So we're going to put this into our calculator. We've solved it out using y, and we can actually graph it though the way that it's originally written here. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to graph this function and then have it tell us the focus and the Directrix for us. So on your calculator, go to home screen, get into a new document and clear out the old stuff. Add in a graph and then hit menu. Once you go to menu, you want to go to graph entry edit and go to equation. The equation that we're working with are parabolas, and we need to look at the format that they give us. This one is solve for x. Format 1 and 2 are both solved for y, so we're not going to choose those. We need to choose one that's solved for x. Options 3 or 4. The difference between option 3 and 4 is this extra y term. See here, I just have a y squared, but over here I have a y squared and an extra y. And I don't have that here. So I'm not going to choose option 4. I need to choose option 3. Gets me into my template. Option 3 template will pop up. And it says x equals, what goes in front of y squared? Negative 8. So we're going to type in negative 8, it goes in front of y squared. We just have a y squared here, so this other number must be 0, because y minus 0 is just y, which leaves us with y squared. The very last thing that we need to add in is this plus 2. So we're going to put in a plus 2. Make sure your equation looks exactly like this, and it will graph your function. It's now time to find where the vertex is so we can actually put this on our coordinate plane down here. Let's find the vertex. It looks like it's at 2, 0, but we want to be very exact. So we're going to go to menu. We want to analyze the graph. This is option 6. And at the very bottom, you'll see conic sections. You want to analyze the conics. Here, you're going to find all of the answers to the questions that they're asking you. What is the focus? What is the Directrix? Where's the vertex? To find the vertex, we're going to click on the one that says vertices. And you can then just, all you need to do is highlight your graph or click your graph, and you can see that the coordinate point will come up. So there's the coordinate point 2, 0. We were right. That is going to be our focus. And we're going to take that focus and that vertex and write it down as our first coordinate point on our graph. (2, 0). There's our vertex, And then let's see if we can find our focus. Let's go to menu. We want to analyze the graph and then get down here into conic sections. You're going to analyze the conics, and you can go for the focus next. So this is foci, and we're going to see the focus pop up here if we click on this graph again. We'll click right on the line, and there's our focus. Okay. Our focus happens at, looks like 63 over 62, 63 over 32, 0. And let's figure out what that is. 63 divided by 32. Let's figure out what that is in a whole number with a decimal. So let's do document, and we're going to go down to insert, and we're going to go to calculator. Okay. So 63 divided by 32 will give us about 1.96. So we know that we can make our focus about right here. And then we also know that our directrix is exactly just on the other side of the vertex. So there's our directrix, here's our focus and our vertex. Label all of those points like that, and then you can go ahead and draw in your function. There's the top side, and here's the bottom side. And you're going to connect that back to the information that you just solved out here. This is the positive side of the function, in other words, the stuff that's on the top of the x-axis. And this negative, that creates a reflection, and that's what you're seeing down here. This is the reflected part of the function. Alright? Let's try one more together. This is 54. Again, we can solve this out for y. So I'm going to divide all of the terms by 2, and I'm going to get y squared equals 1/2 x. Negative 4 divided by 2 is just negative 2. And now we can just take the square root like we did over here. So the square root of y squared equals the square root of 1/2 x minus 2. And again, just like over here, we're going to get those two sides of the function. We're going to get a positive and a negative. So y equals, write that twice, you're going to get positive 1/2 x minus 2, and then negative square root 1/2 x minus 2. You can graph both of these, and you're going to get the same function as if we had just solved this for x and then put that in. We're going to solve this for x now and graph it that way as well. So if we start with 2y squared equals x minus 4, to solve it for x, we would just need to add 4 on both sides. We get 2y squared plus 4 equals x, and now that goes directly into our calculator. So again, we can go to new document, clear out the old graph, and add in a new one. And again, this is the new step that we have to add in. Now you're going to go to menu, and you want to add in, this is option 3, an equation. Remember that we're talking about parabolas, and we need the right template. This one has been solved for x, and it only has one y in it. So you're going to need to go to the one that is solved for x, and it only has one y. This is the option 3. And then your template will pop up. Let's fill in all the information that we know. What goes in front of the y squared? It's a 2. Again, we don't have anything else over here. It just says y squared. So this number has to be 0 because y minus 0 is just y. And the very last digit will be 4. And here's where you graph it. To make this more clear, I'm going to move the label to the very bottom, and then I'll go ahead and graph the vertex. It looks to be at 4, 0, but we want to make sure. So we're going to go to menu, analyze graph. The last option should be something about conics, and then again, of course, the vertex. Alright, so that's calculating the vertex. Is as easy as just clicking on the graph, and that coordinate point pops up. 4, 0. So that's where we're going to start. Now we can calculate the directrix and the focus. So let's go back to our calculator, menu, analyze graph, go to your conics, and then you're going to see foci. Okay. Click on your graph again, and there's your focus. It pops up. It looks like it's 33/8 is where your focus is going to be. Okay. Remember that your focus always goes inside of your parabola, so it's going to be somewhere over here. Let's see what 33/8 is in terms of a whole number. If it was 32 divided by 8 is 4. So we're pretty close to 4 here, just a little bit over. Let's make sure. I'm going to insert a calculator. And we're going to put in that 33/8 and get a really good decimal here. Okay, so 4.125 is where we should be. About right here is going to be our focus. And again, symmetrical, just on the other side of your vertex, that's where you're going to make your directrix mark. I'm going to go back to my graph picture here just to make sure that I'm going to draw my graph correctly. And it looks like the highest that it goes is somewhere around 2. So I'm not going to go too much above 2 on my graph. I'm just going to draw it like that. Put my arrow markings on there, and there we go. I've solved out here for my X and Y, and I've labeled my focus. I've also labeled my directrix.